Welcome to The Explainer. We're jumping right in today to unpack an absolutely incredible sequence of cause and effect. We're talking about how deep financial frustration literally transformed 13 fractured colonies into a recognized sovereign global superpower. It's a massive story, full of immense economic risk, a dramatic geopolitical transformation, and ultimately, the birth of American sovereignty.
Okay, let's dive into this. No taxation without representation. You've heard it, right? It's a phrase that really echoes through history, but at its core, it represents the practical, everyday problem that sparked this whole revolution. I mean, it wasn't just some catchy model, it was a deeply felt economic grievance, and it set a completely unprecedented political shift in motion.
Part 1. Taxation without representation.
So to truly get why this grievance was such a massive catalyst, we need to talk about sovereignty, which is basically the supreme power or authority of a state to govern itself. Back in 1775, the American colonies were living entirely under British rule. They were subject to the Crown's laws and, yeah, its very heavy taxes. But here's the kicker. They completely lacked the sovereignty to govern themselves. Britain just kept imposing financial demands on them while giving them absolutely zero representation in Parliament. The colonists naturally wanted a say in their own economic lives, but under the British system, they literally had zero political influence to push back.
And this created a really rapid cause and effect escalation. Step 1. Intense financial frustration. Well, that tension obviously didn't just fade away, right? It boiled over into Step 2, sparking outright violent conflict between local colonial militias and professional British soldiers. And then, that immediate, desperate necessity to just defend themselves forced Step 3, the formal organization of colonial defenses.
Moving to Part 2, Uniting for Independence. Now, faced with the absolute might of an empire, those 13 previously fractured and highly individualistic colonies had a massive realization. They had to unite. Divided, they were basically just scattered local rebellions, but together, they could actually be a formidable force. The direct result here was the colonies officially uniting to form the Continental Army, and they placed George Washington right at the helm. This was a huge signal to Britain, and really the rest of the world, that they were incredibly serious about this resistance.
That newfound unity and formal military structure set the stage for a date that's etched into global history, July 4th, 1776. This was the pivotal moment. It's when the colonies made the formal, irreversible decision to just break away from the ruling crown entirely. Honestly, it was the absolute point of no return.
The result? The United States Declaration of Independence. By officially putting their break from Britain on paper, they completely changed the stakes of the conflict forever. They weren't just fighting for better tax policies anymore, or simple representation within the British system. No, they were now fighting for the very existence of a brand new, self-governing nation.
Part 3. Turning the Tide. But writing a declaration is one thing. Surviving the grueling years of continued warfare that followed? That's a whole different story. Playing what was essentially a massive game of geopolitical chess, the Continental Army desperately needed a turning point. And this brilliantly illustrates how they found it, by securing military assistance from France. This foreign support was way more than just a quick morale boost. It gave the American forces a major, undeniable advantage against the British military machine.
That massive advantage culminated in 1781, when the British armies surrendered at the Siege of Yorktown. This really stands as the absolute climax of the violent conflict. The surrender at Yorktown effectively crippled the British military effort in the colonies, and it paved a very clear path straight toward the end of the war.
Part 4. Birth of a Sovereign Nation.
Let's move ahead and see how this builds. Transitioning from those bloody battlefields to the quiet rooms of diplomatic resolution, it's genuinely amazing how rapidly this history unfolded. I mean, from the initial war breaking out in 1775 to the formal declaration just a single year later in 1776. Then you fast forward through the grueling conflict to that decisive victory at Yorktown in 1781. And finally, in 1783, the Treaty of Paris is signed. This was the ultimate diplomatic victory, where Britain officially recognized American independence, finally bringing the war to a close.
The staggering scale of this transformation really just speaks for itself. In less than a decade, 13 individual colonies living entirely under strict British rule broke free and emerged as a completely sovereign entity. They successfully transitioned from colonial subjugation right into a unified nation, laying the groundwork to eventually become one of the world's most powerful countries. So, what does this all mean for us now? It leaves us with a totally fascinating thought to wrap up our explainer today. How does this rebellious foundation, this original, truly desperate desire for representation and sovereignty, continue to shape the identity of this global power today? It's a profoundly deep legacy to reflect on. Thank you so much for exploring this history with me today, and I really hope it leaves you curious to dig even deeper.